Is it working?
Looks
I
like
hope it's working.
Hello. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
it's up.
someone's liked it already, and I think I can see the Facebook interface sort of thing. Um, we have so much technical expertise here.
So
Definitely
many. There's so much.
120% on top of things.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, anyway, hi. Welcome
Hello.
to hello, I'm MJ Stokes. This is my wonderful guest, Una McMahon.
Hi.
Wave, who has a much better camera than me. Welcome to They Did What Now? We're a show that celebrates the ballsiest move in history, spectacular loophole abuses, creative cons, extreme examples of extra, and general what the fuckery. I never got that intro quite down while we were a podcast. I don't see any reason to get it quite down now that we're broadcasting live. We are live on the Hysteria Network, coming at you from their headquarters. You can't see the rest of the building, but let me assure you, it is opulent. It is gorgeous. Una saw it on the
So
way in.
fancy. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
believe
We've got
it.
like a champagne fountain in the foyer, and there are just loads of like super hammered koi swimming around in it, starting fights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I'd like
our
to.
entertainment.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like wrestling
It
toys.
it's amazing, and we throw darts at ocelots, whatever they
Hmm.
are. uh, so, how this generally works is that my guest and I both have a story. We're both going in cold. The story fits some or all of the above criteria. We are generally speaking just a weird history show. And we each have a 30-second elevator pitch, um, without giving any spoilers, just to say what this is about a little bit. Oh, didn't properly introduce Una, because, we're on a network now and we're all slick and everything, but, want to keep some of that lo-fi DIY charm we had when we were just a podcast. And by that I mean my laptop camera is shite. Both my mic stand and my headphones are broken, and I'm going to be referring to my notes a ton.
Oh, me
Um,
too.
Yay! Luna is a comedian, one of my favorite comedians. She's just very whimsical and still sharp and just a delight to watch. Like, I am delighted every time I see her name on a lineup. And she is also editor of the National Fried Squib, uh, Dublin's best and so far only comedy zine.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, which is it's a really good really good publication, that Una let me write in once, and I was very happy. So,
Oh, happy, happy.
right. So I think we're okay technical wise. We've got 4 people watching who haven't shouted at me or left a comment to say, "What the fuck are you doing?" Now we've got 3. Okay. It's really depressing that we can see that. I just
Oh,
gotta say, it's really fucking depressing that we can see that. And also that I can go into the analytics for all the videos and see exactly who watched what when.
I can't.
And
I
compare
can't.
it to other people's stuff. This is going to be dangerous, Una. I may not survive this experience.
We will survive.
we,
Deep
we will survive.
breaths.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
gonna be fine.
I love how I was referring to my own neuroticism there and not the massive fucking pandemic. Um, don't panic, especially
Yeah,
not now at
it's
the end of the world. I love that tagline. Anyway, we'll get on with the meat of the thing, so to speak. Una, what is your story about?
It's about a lady who kind of toured Europe as many different things, but was so
Ooh.
infamous that there is a nightclub and intimate bar named after her in County Sligo from the 1800s. Like she was rolling around in 1820 throughout Europe. That's my
I
pitch.
I aspire to that level of notoriety, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Well,
Absolutely. Having a Sligo nightclub named after you,
mm-hmm.
that's where you
It's
want to be.
like that's the tip. Like that's the tops, right? That's where you want to be. That's like in Una McMahon nightclub.
Nice. Yeah, I'd go. I'd go. So
Yeah.
my pitch is horny bat people on the moon. So
I'm in.
yeah. So please tell me all about this notorious lady.
Okay, so Originally, her name is Liza Rosanna Gilbert, right?
Okay.
And she's born in Ireland. She's born
Sorry.
in Sligo. Like, she's has a link to Sligo, and she's born to two people called Edward and Elizabeth. So Elizabeth named her daughter Elizabeth.
Okay.
And so yeah,
That's kind of, I want my daughter to have the proper spelling. Also, I'm just going to interrupt you very slightly. In about 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to go and do something unprofessional that nobody should try at home. So, anyway, yeah, continue.
So she's born in Sligo, right? And as soon as she's born, pretty much she moves to India because her dad is a lieutenant. And they go to India, and then within months of being in India, he dies.
Oh.
Yeah. But that's okay, because she's 2 and she never met him, really. And then her mother remarries another lieutenant, and his name is Patrick Craigie, and he's Scottish. So he sends her to Scotland to be with his family when she's about 5 years old, because he loves her, but she's too wild.
Ooh.
Right?
What year is this again?
This is in 1820 something.
1820 something. Okay.
Yeah. So, like it's hard for her, and she's like living in Scotland with Craigie's grandfather, who describes her as a queer, wayward little Indian girl. So, yeah.
I mean, if it weren't for racism, I would. Bad description. It's not something less the girl, but you know.
Yeah, but like she's like, and she doesn't even sound that bad. Like she's gets this reputation for sticking flowers in old men's wigs at mass.
No. I'm sorry, that's adorable.
It's a lovely thing to do.
Because when you talk about people of that vintage who were raised in colonial households, myself and Ollie Reardon did on our audio podcast, we did an episode on Virginia Hall, who one of her favorite pastimes as a kid was making jewelry out of snakes.
Oh,
out of live snakes. So like flowers in people's wigs that's adorable. That's lovely. Adorable.
She also had to run around naked too, but she was between 5 and 10 at that point. So I mean, every kid goes through a naked phase, right?
Yeah. So, mine is extensively well documented by my mother, who's probably watching this. Ma'am, why?
Photos of their naked children.
Sorry, continue.
So she's wayward. And anyway, she gets sent to boarding school when she's about 10 years old to straighten her up or whatever. And then her mom comes back from India. She hasn't seen her daughter when she's about 16, and she hasn't seen her daughter since she was 5. So she comes back from India, and she's like, listen, I want you to marry the 64-year-old man from India who is the general in Bengal.
Oh dear.
And Eliza at the time has none of it. Right. And I mean, fair play. That's a hard thing to say no to. And she elopes with a lieutenant called Thomas James.
Okay.
And he's an Irish man. And again, more Irish connections. But he's sent to Calcutta, and he's living in Calcutta, and they live there for a few years. But it's not a great relationship, apparently.
Right.
It doesn't work out all that well. And then so she's leaving him. She's separating him, and on the boat back to England from Calcutta, which lasts months and months.
Oh, wait, sorry.
An affair.
Did they get separated on the boat and then have to go back together for months? Oh, right. Okay, she's separated and then leaves.
Him in Calcutta, yeah.
Because I'm just picturing being stuck with a very recent ex on a boat for 3 months. That's
probably just wait till you get off the boat to become official exes. No.
Yeah, that's the smart way to do it. Anyway, sorry.
Nice. So she
on the boat. She meets a fella.
No, she does. she has an affair on the boat back with an aristocrat called George Lennox.
Okay.
So she's having a good time, and she develops a reputation. And her husband finds out that she had an affair. Like,
Okay.
even though they're separated, he finds out, and it's grounds for divorce. So he kind of really fucks her over. Sorry about my language.
Oh, I curse like a motherfucking sailor. Shit, cunt, fuck, bollock, syphilitic, menstrual, cunt, fuck. There you go.
Cool.
I've broken the ice.
That got that out of the way. So he's like divorces her, but he names her as an adulterer in court. So her reputation as a lady in high society is ruined, completely destroyed. It's gone, right? She hasn't a hope, so she disappears. And there's like various different reports that say she either spent 6 months in Spain or 3 years in Spain. She comes back to England as a completely different person.
Right.
She renames herself Lola Montez.
Perfect.
Right?
When you opened that fan, it was like you were a completely different person. I believe it.
I know, right?
It is the Clark Kent effect with a fan. I adore it.
Yeah. I wore a lot of eyeliner to appear Spanish this evening.
It suits you.
There you go. And I will use this for dramatic effect throughout the thing. So she totally redesigns herself as a totally different person called Lola Montez. And
Lola Montez.
And she writes her own press releases to the press, which is like gumption for a woman in 1800s.
Gumption anyway.
Yeah, I wish I could write my own press releases.
I mean, I guess like tweets are that in the modern age, but I want like a proper one, like for immediate release. You know, MJ Stokes will be walking down the street in a few weeks when they're out of quarantine. Anyway, it's a great idea.
So she, in her first press release, right, she writes, "I was born in Seville in the year of 1823. My father was a Spanish officer in the service of Don Carlos. My mother, a lady of Irish extract, was born in Havana. Married for the second time an Irish gentleman, which I suppose is the cause of me being called Irish and sometimes English. I am here to say that my name is Maria Dolores Montez, and I have never changed my name."
I love how she has to specify that. It's a very suspiciously specific denial. Is what we got there from Miss Montez.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I most certainly did not have a cigarette today at all. Absolutely not.
No. I don't even smoke. So right, she goes back to London and she presents herself as Lola Montez, and she does like a dance. She's a Spanish dancer now, right? She's learned how to Spanish dance. And it's the first time that the UK have seen Spanish dancing in England. So her first performance goes excellent. Like, it's really good, right? And everyone loves it. But the thing is, she's a terrible dancer. She just kind of like
just really pretty
on stage, quite like with real confidence and like quite like a Spanishy lady, and just kind of throws Spanishy like moves. Like she doesn't even do the like grab the apple, eat the apple, throw the apple out of the way. She's just very like blah. So she's first performance goes well. Second performance, she's recognized as Miss James the adulterer, and she's booed off the stage. Yeah, so everyone's like, "Oh, you're actually that woman who had that affair on a boat." So yeah,
on a boat, no less. Ouch.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So from there she runs away to Europe as Lola Montez. Nice. And she has quite the time in Europe. So she goes kind of to Eastern Europe, and she does lots of different things. So she's famous for one dance which is called the spider dance, right? And
The spider dance.
the spider dance, which isn't this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did she get better at dancing at any point?
No,
No. Oh
no,
no.
no.
She just really, really likes it. Okay.
Just very. She has such gumption and such confidence in herself. Like fair play.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the. I'm looking at some of the comments we have here.
Hi, I can't see them.
Specifically, I don't know if everyone can see this. Somebody has just called Ms. Montez a boat whore. And I feel like this person should know better than to use such misogynistic language when Ms. Montez was just enjoying herself. So, but thank you.
How dare you?
uh,
So she's in Europe, right?
yes.
And she is getting herself into all sorts of situations. So it goes pretty well, right? Because she's also very, very beautiful, right? She becomes known as like the beauty of Europe, and she becomes really, really famous and infamous. And the spider dance, which I was explaining, which is what she becomes kind of famous for, is like a dance where she's pretending that there are spiders on her legs and skirt.
What?
Right?
So she's just kind of jerking around like, there they are.
Yeah, she's like flinging her skirt around the place, right? And the music starts really slowly, and so it's gentle, like flick, flick, flick. And then there are more spiders, and it gets more erratic and more like. But the thing is, she's like lifting her skirt to the spiders away, but she's not wearing any underwear. So effectively, it's a peep show from a beautiful woman.
Okay, fair. Seamus Stackpool has commented to let us know that he likes spiders. I like spiders too, Seamus. I think spiders get a bad rap.
Good input, Seamus.
You're not a fan of spiders?
That would be coconuts.
Not a fan of spiders at all? I like spiders. They're a very important part of the ecosystem. And me being able to get rid of them is basically the only advertising or way I can advertise myself as a romantic partner to anyone. I will get rid of your spiders.
But like nice.
And I make a nice key lime pie. There's that.
Key lime pie and spider.
Spider pie. Not the two. I like the spiders too much to eat them.
Yeah, I think you should eat spiders, man.
Sorry, Una, you did. I did say a couple of moments ago that I was going to interrupt in one moment and do something horrendously unprofessional. Okay, cool. I'm gonna.
Fan dance.
You do the fan dance for the audience. I'm gonna lower my laptop camera so fewer people can see how I live. It's not pretty.
I have 2 fans. So graceful. It's so weird. How are we all? Are we well? I can't see any of their answers, so I am presuming you're all well. I finished my fan dance. My biggest fan is a fan. Cheers.
We good? Was that a good fan dance?
Yeah, I'm not awkwardly just smiling at the camera for 5 minutes.
Yes, I am smoking. I'm quarantined. I get to smoke.
I'm not going to stop you.
Don't try this at home, kids. Smoking isn't cool or good for you and will increase your risk of dying. Just generally, but
days.
especially now. Chris O'Neill wants to know where the spiders are, and I would just like to say behind you. Anyway, sorry, continue.
In your brain, Chris. They're in your brain.
On your skin. They're everywhere.
So she's in Europe doing the spider dance, and she gets kicked out of Warsaw after starting a feud with the chief of police in Warsaw. And and she kind of begins to get like a reputation as a courtesan. So she's like accepting lots of favors from men. And then she starts to develop a relationship with Franz Liszt, the composer guy.
Is this the guy who wasn't there Listomania? Where
it was very handsome.
Yeah, this was apparently the first time. I'm a terrible podcast host and I keep interrupting you, but this was apparently the first time there was like serious hypersexual female fandom among a music or among towards musician.
Yeah,
in recent times.
Surprised. Yeah,
this was the first recorded instance of someone throwing their undergarments at a musician.
Ooh,
so, yeah,
like a corset?
Mr. Liszt. What?
Because their undergarments were like a lot.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to throw. Like
you'd have to like dismantle some things. Yeah. I mean, I imagine it might have been. I'm not sure how it happened. Was there like some knife action involved?
Like maybe they just had a spare one in their handbag.
Maybe.
Yeah, and they were like, "I'm going to see
prepared.
Franz Liszt. I'm going to be the first woman to throw her underwear at him. I'll be prepared."
Fun fact about me: back when I was pretending to be a girl, I threw my bra at Scroobius Pip.
Oh, I mean, he's a good guy to throw a bra at.
I thought so at the time. It was a nice bra, though.
Oh.
Not sure if it was worth it. Anyway, sorry, that was quite the digression.
So she's infamous throughout Europe. She's kicked out of places. She's worshipped. She's loved. She's dating Franz Liszt. That doesn't end that well. I think he breaks up with her, and then she trashes the hotel room. But before he broke up with her, he said, "That woman is going to destroy that hotel room in about half an hour, and I'm just going to pay for everything in advance now."
Okay, we see why this didn't work out.
Yeah.
Lola's got some attachment issues, clearly. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he still kind of introduces her to French circles, so she moves to Paris. Okay. For a little bit, and he introduces her to George Sands. Do you know George Sands? So that was her pen name, but her name was it's very French. Amandine Lucille Aurora Dupin. Mm-hmm. But George Sands is how she would be famous for.
Okay.
And she was like a huge romanticism novelist, massive in the time. There was actually, this is where I digressed a little bit and was like, maybe I should have chosen her. Because she chose to present as a male the whole time. Even though French police, because there's loads of women doing that in Paris at the time, and the French police had issued like an order that it was now illegal unless you had a special piece of paper that said you could, for like work reasons, present or wear men clothes. And she ignored that and continued to present as a man. So she's
quite interesting. Yeah, it's quite interesting from a trans history point of view, trying to untangle who was doing that for practical reasons and who was doing that because this is who they were.
Yeah. It was really interesting. And Victor Hugo commented about her, and he said the nicest thing, or her, him, they, I don't know what pronoun she would have used. But he said, George Sands could not determine whether she was male or female. It's almost insulting. But I entertain high regard for my colleagues, and it's not my place to decide whether she is my sister or my brother. I thought it was very sweet. Yeah. I was like,
that's an attitude I can get behind as a non-binary person.
Yeah, I was like, this is a gorgeous little thing, and I stand beside that. So that was kind of cool, and I got totally distracted by George Sands, and then I forgot about Lola, but she was hanging out with these people, right? One person who didn't like her was Wagner. Didn't have any time.
No? He was a cunt still, apparently.
Well, yeah. She's not great either. She whips people.
Well, yeah, she did trash a hotel room when her boyfriend dumped her, so...
And when she was in... she was hanging... So she performed for, like, the Tsar of Russia and the Kaiser in Germany. And so
The
she was
spider
like,
dance? Did she do the spider dance for the Kaiser?
She's pretty much like a high-end peep show, right?
Great.
Courtesan lady, right? And she was trying to get into the courtyard where the Kaiser was doing an inspection, and a soldier stopped her, and she took out a horsewhip and whipped him in the face, like a lot. And
sorry, did you? Oh no, that's the fan. I was just like, did you?
I don't have a horsewhip.
Do I want to?
I thought it could double as a horsewhip. Yeah, so she that was the first recorded time she did that. She does it a lot. She's like infamous sleeper, just whipping people in the face.
Okay.
I thought was kind of cool. Anyway, so she's in Paris. Her shows don't go down that well in Paris because Parisians have taste, and they're like, let us just, because like Paris would have been the home of like the can and like actual dancers doing amazing dancing, and she's there going, I'm Spanish, here's my pants, I'm Spanish, here's my pants. So yeah, so she is there, and then where does she go next? Oh yeah, so she has lots of affairs in Paris as well.
It's the place for it.
So she has an affair with Alexandre Dumas, who wrote The Three Musketeers and the Count.
Okay.
Yeah, that guy. And then she kind of gets in trouble-ish. She starts to date this guy who is the owner of the widest circulated newspaper in France. Very French name, so excuse me. Alexandre Dujarrier. Dujarrier. So they have like this kind of weird tempestuous, like fighting all the time relationship, and then there's a party and they have a fight, and then he gets really drunk and then he challenges some guy called Jean-Baptiste Rosemont de Beauvau to a duel, and he gets shot and dies.
Ooh. I honestly think we should bring back dueling.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, dueling? Why?
Well, I've said this before, but a while back I really looked into it. By which I mean I had a brief fling that did not end very well, and ended up listening to the Hamilton soundtrack over and over on repeat to cope, because that's how I do. But I did look into it a bit after that, and it seems like half of the time these duels were solved by the seconds, who would just kind of go and, because you have these two people dueling each other, and then they both pick a second, and the seconds have to go and talk to each other to kind of see, is there any chance that we can iron this out without someone dying? And apparently 90% of the time it was just, listen, we know they're both fucking morons, they're not smart people, this is really, can we just like make some sort of, is your idiot going to accept this, because my idiot might accept it. I just think that's a really good way to resolve things.
I think I like the idea of seconds for sure. I think that's how we can solve Palestine. No, we don't think that's how we can solve that.
I mean, we're trying to do that, but no, it's not working. It's not.
No, seconds could be a good idea. Especially if the second is you pick your second. That's nice.
Yeah, no, that's the idea. You pick someone who, I mean, I suppose like if you're really not that smart, you could just pick someone who is just as hot-headed as you, and it's like, yeah, I want to fight you too. We're dueling when they're finished dueling. We're taking this in turns. But yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts on dueling.
Okay, cool. Let's bring it back. Okay, so he dies, and she's very upset, and upon seeing his corpse, she kisses it all over, which is interesting. Anyway, she runs away from Paris.
Like, it depends on how old the corpse is.
I don't really know. I wasn't there at the time.
Oh no. Sorry.
I'm not that old. So she runs away to Munich, right? And she finds herself being introduced to Ludwig the First of Bavaria, so the King of Bavaria, more or less. And upon seeing her, he questions if her bosom is real, and she's offended, so much so that she takes the scissors, cuts off her top, and reveals her bosom and says, "See for yourself."
And were they real?
Oh, yeah.
I imagine so. You pull that move, I imagine so.
There's 2 chicken fillets full out.
You can use them to challenge the other person to a duel, just like slap the face with the chicken fillet. I demand satisfaction, and so does my fake tit.
Ludwig becomes obsessed with her. He's like, he loves her. And so much so, he makes her a countess, and he gives her a castle, and she lives like in the lap of luxury. But no one around Ludwig likes her. His sister offers her £2,000 to get lost. And she says no, because she's pretending to be Spanish. And then she kind of begins to interfere with government. So she leans towards like a liberalist kind of agenda, and she kind of befriends some university guys to make her bodyguard troop. But the Catholics and the Jesuits hate her. And when Ludwig makes her countess, they all resign from government, and the government collapses.
Well, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and so then really unstable government gets put into place. But people of Bavaria hate her, like so much so that they riot on the streets.
Oh, good God.
Like a minor riot, and then be like, "Oh, that's just a misunderstanding. I'm sorry."
I mean, I wouldn't go as far as riot, but like a street brawl. I feel like, I think like maybe a street brawl would be nice.
Just like pushing to people aside and be like, "You can love me back."
I am getting kind of Major Evita vibes here.
I was thinking of Grandpa from The Simpsons. Anyway, so riots in the street, and then there's an assassination attempt on her life, and she goes away to Switzerland to like hide, and she begs Ludwig to abdicate and join her, but at this point Ludwig is like, "Wait a second,
you're a bit.
This is all your fault." And he's like, "Maybe not." Anyway, Ludwig kind of loses the throne. He's forced to abdicate to his son Maximilian, and he never joins her. He never follows her, because he was like, "Wow, I lost everything because of that crazy bitch."
Don't date Lola.
Yeah, no matter. No. Lola moves to London, back to London, and it's 1849. She marries or gets engaged to a 21-year-old extremely wealthy man. She's only 27 at this point as well, so she's done a lot.
She's only 27?
She's only 27 at this point.
I've wasted my fucking life.
Don't worry, there's still time to take down.
I'm nearly 28 and I haven't even caused a minor street brawl.
I'll organize it. We'll get it going. I mean, maybe after the quarantine. But
maybe not now. I mean, we could have a minor street argument from separate windows.
So she is in London. She's engaged to this very wealthy guy called George Traverdheed. But his family find out, and they hate Lola too, because she's like pretty much
there's a pattern here.
Known courtesan, just came back from taking down the Bavarian monarchy. Like she's not great.
I mean, Bavarian monarchy, by all accounts, probably did deserve it.
So so they find out that she's actually been previously married, and that there's a clause in a marriage that states that until one of them has died, the other can't marry. And old James is still back in India, so she can't marry, and his family present this to him then, and they go, fuck it, and they move to Europe and get married anyway.
Here. Okay.
So they travel around Europe having a good time, and then after 3 years, George decides he's had enough. It's reported in the Cork Examiner. I love that it's reported in the Cork Examiner that they have separated, and that he left her in the capable hands of 2 French gentlemen. Just oh, could you imagine?
Who clearly have no idea what's coming.
So so she goes. So after Georgia leaves her, and it's 1851 now, and she's like, time to start dancing again.
Okay.
But she knows she can't really go dancing in the EU anymore because she's burnt a lot of bridges.
In the EU?
So she takes herself to the USA.
Okay.
And I think within the first week of getting there, she beats up an Italian count.
Which Italian count?
I'm not
We
really
know
sure. How many are there?
I don't know why I asked that.
I'm like, I didn't really read about the count. I was like, oh, yeah.
Not a great podcast host.
So she sends out more press releases about herself in the US, and she puts on a one-woman show in New York called Lola Montez in Bavaria.
Which is clearly a one-woman performance piece where she talks about the Bavarian monarchy and...
Yeah.
Oh, it actually is!
Real well.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So it's like a pseudo-liberal revolutionary tale about standing up to strict Catholics. And
right.
It went down a treat. Everyone was like, yes. So she travels throughout the US doing her like one-woman show and a little bit of spider dancing, like in between. I mean, old dog, new tricks. And she's in San Francisco in about 1853, and during the gold rush, and she marries another newspaper guy called Patrick Hull. But it only lasts a few weeks, and then she kind of takes a break of being like blah. So she lives like in a valley called Grass Valley, which sounds like something out of The Sims or something. And but the ladies of the area know her history because it's widely reported. And
that's a whole show. you know, owning her story. Like, we have to give that to her. She's owning her own narrative. I mean, except for the part where nobody knows her real name.
Except for a little bit in the UK when they were, hey,
anyway.
And she's called a trap jade. Trapped jade. How dare it? Anyway, so she takes 2 years break, and then in 1855 she goes to Australia to dance in New South Wales for more miners. Miners love her. They love her in California so much so that they name a mine after her. So they can drill, baby, drill.
I was just kind of saying, there are so many. Where do you begin with the jokes on that one?
I know.
You don't. I don't. That would be.
We'll just let people have that.
Sorry, I'm just looking. I'm looking at the comments here, and Aliora keeps commenting, and the last one is just fun story I once did when I wore yellow, and I can't tell if that's bring down the Bavarian monarchy, stardom at. She said it again.
Easily could have brought down the Bavarian monarchy.
Started a minor street brawl, or just like let us know, okay, or don't. We can disagree. latest comment from her is down her dark damp hole. Oh, a street riot. Okay, right in Uganda. Okay, yeah, we're stopping now because this is not your podcast. This is my podcast.
Sorry. So
Continue.
she's in Australia, and her miners in Australia love her. And there's even like a little YouTube clip on YouTube about how when she came to Australia and she put on a show and she did the spider dance for the miners, and they loved the spider dance, and they would throw gold nuggets at her from the audience. And so she was making about £200 a day.
Yeah. Nice.
But there was a little incident with another newspaper guy who said that she was a lady of ill repute in a newspaper, and she found him in her hotel, like wandering around her hotel, and she whipped him with a horsewhip. So, wow. Yeah, it's common in the trade.
Sad. Then. It's a theme. It's a theme.
It's a theme. It's a theme.
Did that things my online here?
You just
okay, yeah, definitely.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
We're on horsewhips. Ali says sorry, it's fine. Jesus. Get your own podcast. Oh wait. Anyway, continue.
So she's horsewhipping people, and then it's 1852, and she stops dancing, and instead she tours the world giving lectures about gallantry, fashion, beautiful women, and comic history of love, heroines, and strong minded women in history. And it would have been around the time of like feminists rising up, but she had little time for feminism. Funny, right. You know. She kind of felt that you're your own person. It doesn't really matter if you're a man or a woman. You do your own thing, and you should be powerful enough to make change rather than a collective change.
Her Twitter presence would be insufferable.
Oh yeah, no, she'd be a horrible individual to know. But she did so many things.
She's very cool.
She went back to America in 1860, had a stroke, and then in 1861 got pneumonia, and she died when she was 40. Now, there's some people that say that she died of syphilis, and some people say pneumonia. So, syphilis makes sense, considering her lovers.
And again, wow. And how did the Sligo nightclub come about?
So I looked up the Sligo. It's been in existence for 20 years.
Okay.
I don't know if it's always been called the Lola Montez, but it's just like we serve classy cocktails with a sassy drink menu, and I was like, that's the same thing you just described with two different words. And then they have a quote that she supposedly said that said, "I've never claimed to be famous, but I was always notorious." And it kind of like it argues that it's a club for like independent, strong-minded women, but really it's probably just like a place where you go to wear the face of someone.
Yeah, well, the two are not mutually exclusive, I hear. Yeah. Anyway, it's been a while since I saw The Outside, but anyway, thank you very much. That was highly entertaining, and I learned a lot.
It was really long. I'm sorry.
I think you went. I interrupted you quite a bit with meaningless anecdotes. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm not great at this. Okay, so thank you. So I promised you some horny moon bat people, and I absolutely will deliver. I have notes as well, which fell while I was having my my big escape to the nicotine moment. I was without cigarettes all day. It was unpleasant. So yes. So I have been reading. Haven't been doing a lot productive. It turns out I'm not a productive quarantine person. I'm more of a rapidly worsening clinical depression. But I have been reading this fabulous book. It is called The Truth. If you can see it there.
Oh, cute.
It's by Tom Phillips, and its subtitle is A Brief History of Total Bullshit.
Oh,
So it's a
excellent.
lot of fun. Mostly it's about media hoaxes and cons and things. And with a topic like this, it could be really, really easy for this guy to it's by Tom Phillips, who works for a UK fact checking agency, the name of which I cannot remember, but please believe me, it's legit. Against the spirit of literally everything I am about to say next.
I totally believe you until.
Yeah, thank you. I knew. See, this is why I invited you on, Una. I knew I could trust you. I knew I could.
Thanks.
Good people. Yeah, I mean, it would be really easy for him to come across as just like really smug and "Oh, I'm so much better than everyone." But it's actually it's very well written. He's very sympathetic to people who believe this kind of stuff because we're basically carting around sacks of meat and electricity that evolved to find out where the good bananas were, and now we're trying to fact check with them. But it's very, very good. But this is basically in the 1830s. The line between fact and fiction in journalism was a bit fuzzy.
Well, you could write your own press releases. So.
Yeah. This is the dawn of tabloid journalism in New York in 1835. And at this point, a publication called the New York Sun had hit upon an excellent business model where they undercut their competition by charging a cent instead of $1 and writing about things that people actually wanted to read about, which was mostly violent crime and horror. So this is the dawn of what was called the penny press. And sometimes stories got a little bit weird. And this is where the horny bat moon people live. This is live. Generally, this is the point where I would just switch things off and go and have giggles myself in a corner for several minutes. I can't do that, or if I do that now, all of you have to look at me and don't look at me. I'm a fraud. Anyway, most of this story comes from this book. There is some of it also from the Smithsonian and the New Yorker, so that I can pretend to be slightly less of a fraud than I actually am. They say desperately casting around for their cigarettes. We're very informal here all of a sudden. Fuck.
Did you say very informal or Bavarian informal?
I was gonna go with very informal, but cool. That's a nice one too. I think they're over here actually, and I'm just gonna. Yeah, we've officially entered the fuck it portion of the broadcast. So yes, we were talking about how it was a fraud, and also the horny moon bat people. So New York Sun in 1835, on I believe it was the Friday the 21st of August, publish a story. It's barely a footnote, really, about a real, actual scientist and astronomer that did exist. Called John Herschel, Sir John Herschel, and he had made a lot of astronomical, so far so good. He did not actually do this. He did not build a giant telescope weighing about 7 tons in England and bring it to the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa.
Oh, okay.
For starters, he did not do that because it would have been fucking impossible at the time. But it was barely a paragraph, and it just said that he had made astronomical discoveries of the most wonderful description. And it claimed to be a reprint from the Edinburgh Journal of Science. So it's barely a footnote. Most people flip past it, go straight to the violent murder, but it's followed up on the 25th of August with, again, very nice small little article going into the technical specifications of this magnificent telescope that this man has built with, again, no, I just hate that they specified it was built in England and brought to South Africa. That
Yeah.
kind of feels like something they could have circumvented very easily by saying we built the 7-ton thing in South Africa. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, we'll get to the bat people. So
Read all
then
about it.
read all about it. What the fuck was that? I don't know what kind of accent that was.
Sorry, I started that.
It's very. I was going for like a mid-Atlantic sort of thing, and it ended up being, like Jamaica via Bristol. Never mind. Anyway, so Wednesday is when it gets weird.
Okay.
So it describes that this giant telescope has found this beautiful plant life with these red poppy-like flowers and blue goat unicorns. Specifically blue,
Wow.
specifically goat, specifically unicorns.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
I thought it was. Yeah, it's magical and it's all in the
Yeah.
lunar landscape. Um, but then Friday, they've found upright beavers
Ooh.
in. This is where it starts to get racist. I wish I could say it becomes racist, but it gets progressively more racist.
Oh no.
Unfortunately, yep. So on Friday, they discover upright beavers in huts constructed better and higher than those of many tribes of human savages.
Ah.
Yeah. Well, they carry the beavers in their arms, and apparently you can hear them having conversations
Oh, yeah. With
with
that
each other,
telescope.
or with you can hear them with the telescope, yes, or at
Okay.
least observe them having these interactions.
I see.
But Friday is when it gets batshit crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, because they're bats.
Yeah.
Um,
Very slow.
yeah, it's a bad idea. Anyway, so they actually get they actually went to the trouble of giving them fancy Latin names. So this is a vespertilian homo or man bat, which and the man bat, as distinct from Batman, the man
Yeah.
bat. There's far less crime fighting involved or specified in the article. Perhaps they were. We will never know because they were imaginary. But they had short and glossy copper-colored hair and were apparently engaged in conversation. And I have to read this passage because this passage contains what I believe to be the best ever written line in the English language. So bear with me a moment, Una, and I will bring that up for you.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, you good? So this is the article also noted that our further observation of the habits of these creatures, who were of both sexes,
Okay.
mhm, led to results so very remarkable that I prefer that they should first be laid before the public in Dr. Herschel's own work. They are doubtless innocent and happy creatures, notwithstanding that some of their amusements would but ill comport with our terrestrial notions of decorum.
Oh.
A section describing those amusements was rather ostentatiously censored out. And I love this. Yep. While the text tiptoes around it, the reader could be left in little doubt. My dudes, the bat people of the moon fucked.
Amazing.
That line, it does bring me great joy. So on Saturday, they start talking about the palaces of crystal and amethyst and sapphire that the bat people have built.
They sound
On Sunday,
quite sophisticated.
Sorry?
They sound quite sophisticated.
They're very sophisticated and horny, apparently.
Yeah.
They're just building these palaces and talking about philosophy and just riding constantly. Which, it sounds like a nice way to live.
It doesn't sound bad.
Yeah. So on Sunday, unfortunately, it gets more racist. And they start talking about finding the lighter skinned bat people who are clearly the most evolved. out of all the bat people.
So
Um,
disappointing. I mean, it was already kind of disappointing. Now it just,
yeah, they had to make the bat people racist too. Now, why did they have to go do that?
I don't know.
Why?
Because it was bad time in history. Bad.
But the public loved it. The public ate it up, and they joined in. And we're looking at diaries from people who I've searched on the internet have looked at diaries of people during this time. They did apparently seem to believe it, to really kind of get into it. And there's stories about people running into dockers and sailors who said, "Yeah, I helped unload some parts for this guy for his huge telescope."
Okay. I thought you meant for the Crystal Palaces there for a
No,
second.
no, that would be quite. I was on the moon, the other day,
If
just
the
chilling
bat
on the moon.
people have wings, could they not fly to Earth? I'm no scientist, but
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think they still thought it was a long way.
yeah.
I mean, no one has ever met one of the bat people
Yeah.
in this story. We do not know what the bat people thought about that, whether they themselves were racist,
Yeah.
precisely how much or who they fucked, and again, largely because they were imaginary, completely. So, I know. So this hoax is exposed by James Gordon Bennett of the Morning Herald, the son of the famous alcoholic James Gordon Bennett.
Oh.
Not son, father even. Who basically manages to get a hold of John Herschel, who's kind of going, "Wait, what?" No bat people that I've seen. Who the hell is going to bring a 7-ton telescope from England to South Africa?
That's the point he's obsessed with. It's not the bat people; it's the 7-ton telescope that he.
It's just illogical. It feels like the first question someone should have asked.
I don't know. Like,
bat people on the moon, people. I can accept bat people on the moon. I cannot accept a schooner transporting. Well, I suppose might have been a steamship at that point, but I cannot accept
like several parts, and then it was assembled.
Separately, sure. Yeah, maybe. I just feel that's the point where people should have started asking questions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, bat people, straight up odd.
The bat people again have not commented because they are sadly not real.
That we know of.
So and the public are kind of good humored about it. There's a kind of gotcha moment. And they managed to get a hold of the guy who wrote it, a guy called Richard Adams Locke, who claimed it was satire, that they were, that they were making fun of the whole idea of intelligent design and everything like that. And you'd kind of believe them. But several sources, including the Smithsonian, note that a bunch of scientists from Yale came up to the New York Sun and asked to see their evidence for the bat people and to see the original articles from the journal, the Edinburgh Journal of Science, or the Edinburgh, which was it?
Edinburgh, yeah.
And they just sent them to several different offices over a period of days until they gave up. Which doesn't sound like.
So firstly, it's 2 bad points to get Yale. Like, they gave up bad, and also they believed in bad people bad.
Well, you gotta admit, it's 1835. In 1835, it could have been plausible. I mean, we were still talking about the ether in 18. Well, I wasn't personally. Again, I was not there. But I can understand how your average person on the street in 1835 in New York could have believed in the bat people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Put my hand up. I probably would.
It was a different. I think I'd want to believe in bat people because it was a nice idea that there were maybe smarter people out there, but then they were also racist. So
it's just nice to imagine bat people fucking on the moon. Oh no.
Flap,
We've
flap.
come full circle. So that was that hoax. Richard Locke, alas, never really wrote again in his career,
Oh
unfortunately.
no!
So if it was satire, you can't help but feel really bad about him. And also, he earned the ire of Edgar Allan Poe, who alleged that he had plagiarized most of this from a story he wrote called The Unparalleled Adventure of One Hans Hans Fall. I have terrible handwriting. Who had the main character in the story took a hot air balloon to the moon
Ooh.
and met with some people who may or may not have been bat people. Anyway, Edgar Allan Poe accused this guy of plagiarizing, and he never worked again.
Oh no!
So,
Don't plagiarize, kids.
no, it's bad. Don't lie to the national press about bat people, and do not plagiarize Edgar Allan Poe. If there are two things you take away from this, don't fuck with Poe. Leave the bat people alone.
Speaking of plagiarism, I need to cite Irish History Podcast because they give me a lot of information on Lola Montez. So good podcast. Do listen to it. He's looking for a sponsor and or patrons.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had a coffee link that I forgot to put in here, didn't we? During my insane nicotine-deprived climbing of walls, trying to set this whole thing up and going, no, I don't need help. Obviously, I used to do tech support. It's fine. Look, no, I don't. I desperately need help. Was kind of sorry.
Turned out well, though.
Turned out well. I liked it. So what have we learned? We have learned do not break up with Lola Montez while you are still in the same country as Lola Montez.
Write her a Dear John letter from a different country.
You can, in fact, bring down the Bavarian government with the spider dance.
Yeah.
The bat people on the moon just want to be left alone, and do not plagiarize from Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
That's good sum up. Great. So Una, do you have anything you would like to plug?
Oh yeah, so the zine which I usually would promote and publish monthly, I can't really do right now because we're all stuck inside. So this Saturday I'm going to run a thing called National Pride Quarantine, where I challenge anyone who's listening or around to make something in 24 hours for the digital version of Squib, which is quarantine, National Pride Quarantine. So it can be anything. It can be audio. The thing is, because it's digital, it frees up things. So it can be audio, it can be a video, it can be a photograph, it can be a drawing, it can be an essay. It can be anything as long as it's done in or around those 24 hours. And then Amazing. On Sunday evening, I'll publish it. So it'll start from Saturday morning to Sunday morning, and then Sunday evening I'll get it all up on the website somewhere.
Amazing.
So yeah, come do that, those who are here.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's fantastic. I run a night called the Nerd Herd. We will hopefully be having our first live gig here on the Hysteria Network very soon. It's a show. Una's done it before and was fabulous at it. It's a show where I get comedians to come and just make jokes about their favorite things they really love that just give them great enjoyment. So that's it. Keep an eye on Hysteria for any more updates. We're gonna have more programs, more shows, more funny people, more funny things coming out very soon. And have a good quarantine.
Stay safe, guys.
Bye. Is it ended? Is it over yet?